The auction hall of Carth Station smelled of rust, recycled air, and desperation. That was where unwanted things ended up. Scrap merchants haggled over broken loaders. Slavers whispered prices over chained prisoners from failed colonies. Exotic collectors leaned back in padded seats, bored and cruel, flicking through data pads while waiting for something interesting to appear on the platform at the very end. Of the lot list after malfunctioning drones, expired gene seed crates, and a crate labeled biological, low viability, came the dragon. The auctioneer barely looked up. Lot 379, he droned. One albino dwarf dragon, abandoned. No papers. Likely runt. Minimal flame output. Malnutrition evident. Starting bid 1 credit. A ripple of laughter passed through the hall. A dragon, once the terror of ancient battlefields, once worshipped by entire species, reduced to a joke. The cage slid forward inside, curled against the cold alloy floor. Was something heartbreakingly small. The dragon couldn't have been more than the length of a human's forearm. Its scales were a dull, chalky white instead of the radiant hues prized by collectors. One wing was folded wrong, the membrane torn and poorly healed. Its ribs showed beneath thin scales. A faint plume of steam escaped its nostrils as it breathed, too weak even to spark. Its eyes opened at the sound of laughter. They were a pale, translucent silver, not dull, not empty, just tired. No bids. The auctioneer asked, already impatient. A few hands twitched, but not in interest. Waste of feed, someone muttered. Albino defects, another scoffed. Can't bond properly. Dwarf dragons don't live long anyway. The auctioneer sighed. 1 credit going once. Wait. The voice was quiet. Young, the hall turned. Standing near the back, half hidden between towering crates, was a girl, human. She couldn't have been more than 15 standard years old. Her clothes were patched, utility grade, clearly second-hand. A worn satchel hung from her shoulder. Her dark hair was tied back with a piece of wire, and her boots were scuffed down to the synth leather. She raised a hand. I'll buy it. Laughter exploded. You. Someone barked. Kid, that thing costs more to cremate than it's worth. The auctioneer squinted. You have a credit? The girl nodded and stepped forward, pulling a slim chip from her pocket. 1 credit. That's the price. He hesitated, then shrugged. Rules were rules. Sold, he said, tapping the console. Lot 379. 1 credit. The cage unlocked with a hiss, and in that moment, something changed. The dragon lifted its head. It looked at the girl, not past her, not through her, at her. The girl approached slowly, kneeling beside the cage. The dragon didn't snarl, didn't bare its teeth. It trembled. Hey, she whispered. It's okay. I've got you. No one noticed the faint shimmer that passed between them. No one except the dragon. Her name was Lyra Hale. She lived on Carth Station's lower ring, where gravity stuttered and lights flickered. Her parents had died 3 cycles earlier during a reactor failure. Since then, she survived by fixing what others threw away, cleaning filters, patching cables, bartering repairs for food. She had no business buying a dragon, but she'd seen its eyes, and she knew what it meant to be abandoned. She carried the cage herself, straining under the weight as she navigated the narrow corridors to her tiny habunit. When she set it down, the dragon flinched, curling tighter. Lyra opened the cage door. The dragon didn't move. She sat on the floor, cross-legged, and slid a bowl of warm nutrient paste forwards, something she'd made by combining her own rations with protein gel meant for station vermin. "I don't know what dragons eat," she admitted softly, "but this is the best I can do." The dragon sniffed, then, slowly, painfully slowly, it crawled forward. Its tiny tongue flicked out. It tasted the paste and began to eat. Lyra smiled, tears burning her eyes. That night, the dragon slept curled against her chest, its small body radiating gentle warmth. Lyra named it Ashby because even the palest fire still came from flame. She didn't know that dwarf dragons bonded. She didn't know albino dragons were rare beyond measure. She didn't know that when a dragon chose someone willingly, ancient laws older than empires took notice. But Ash knew, and Ash chose her. Word spread quickly. By the third day, people came knocking. A trader offered 50 credits, then 100, then a collector offered a sealed transport off-state, and enough money for Lyra to live comfortably for years. She refused every time. "He's not for sale," she said. They laughed. They always laughed until Ash grew stronger. It happened faster than anyone expected. Within weeks, Ash's scales began to glow faintly under light, refracting silver instead of white. The torn wing healed cleanly, membrane knitting together smoother than before. His flame, once nothing more than steam, became a thin, controlled ribbon of pale fire. Not destructive, precise. And when Lyra was threatened, a drunk dockhand grabbed her wrist and demanded she hand over the valuable lizard. Ash did something no one had ever recorded a dwarf dragon doing. He stood between them and roared. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The air. Vibratted. The dockhand collapsed, clutching his ears, screaming. Security footage later showed something impossible. For half a second, Ash wasn't small. He was vast, not physically, but spiritually, as if something ancient looked out through his eyes. That footage reached people far above Karth Station. It reached the Concorda coalition that claimed legal authority over all dragonkind. Arrived with cruisers, with banners, with soldiers, came to claim Ash. The dragon is protected property, the Concord envoy declared, standing in Lyra's tiny hab unit as if it disgusted him. Albino dwarf dragons are artifacts of immense value. You acquired it illegally. I bought him, Lyra said, standing firm, fair and square. For 1 credit, the envoy sneered. You exploited a clerical error. Ash growled softly from her shoulder. You will hand it over, the envoy continued. In return, we will offer you compensation. Lyra shook her head. Ash's claws tightened not painfully, but possessively. The envoy's eyes widened as sensors screamed. A full bond, he whispered. That's impossible. Dwarf dragons don't. Ash lifted his head and spoke, not in sound, but in meaning. The room went silent. Every screen flickered. Every Concord soldier dropped to one knee, overwhelmed by a presence that crushed arrogance like paper. She is mine. The envoy fell back, pale, ancient flame. Ash's voice filled every mind. You abandoned me. You sold me. She bought me with kindness. Lyra's hands shook, but she didn't let go. I am not property. I am a dragon. The Concord withdrew within the hour. They left behind a declaration that would echo across the galaxy. Ash of the pale flame bonded freely to human Lyra Hale. is recognized as a sovereign, draconic entity. It had never happened before, not with a human, not with a dragon, sold for 1 credit. Years passed. Lyra grew older. Ash grew stronger, not larger. He would always be small by dragon standards, but deeper. His flame could cauterize wounds without pain, melt battle armor without harming what lay beneath, and burn corruption from systems, both biological and political. Together, they traveled, they freed trafficked creatures, they exposed corrupt collectors, they ended wars not with firestorms, but with presence. People stopped laughing at the story. They started teaching it in academies, in negotiation halls, in military briefings, a reminder that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its ships, or its guns, or its empires. It was this: humans saw value where others saw waste. They chose compassion when profit was easier. They could look at something broken, unwanted, and say, "You matter." And sometimes the universe answered back with fire. On the anniversary of the auction, Lyra returned to Karth Station. The old hall was gone, replaced by a sanctuary. At its center stood a statue, a small albino dragon, wings spread, and a girl kneeling beside him, offering a bowl. The plaque beneath read, "Purchased for 1 credit, bonded for eternity." Proof that kindness can awaken legends. Ash curled around her shoulders, warm and familiar. "Worth it," Lyra whispered. Ash purred, a sound like distant flame. "Always." Asterisk.